Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC. We got a fun video for you today. We're going to be taking a look at 3 different race buggies from 3 different countries and just kind of talking about the pros and cons, I think, of each of these buggies. I think they're pretty well representative of the style or characteristics of the different countries, and these are the latest and probably most popular, best buggies from the 3 countries. From the UK, we have the Schumacher Cougar LD2, been out for about a year and a half. From Japan, we've got the Yokomo CAL3.1, and from the US, we have the most popular US buggy, which is the Team Associated B6.4. So these are all the carpet edition or AstroTurf, sort of artificial surfaces type editions. The Yokomo and the B6.4 do come in 2 variations. The Schumacher also comes in 2 versions, but it's really a stock spec version and the regular Cougar LD2 version for, mod motors, I guess. So yeah, I want to be talking about each of these, kind of their pros and cons. They're all equipped with exactly the same electronics, the same servo, ESC, motor, all that stuff. So we're not really comparing different, electronics or anything like that. They are pretty much spec'd out as close as possible. So yeah, let's get into the comparison. So I had a pretty fun time taking these to my local carpet track and just driving them around back to back to back, because it's really nice to do a direct comparison and not go off what you remember things as being, and really just kind of refresh how they actually perform. So the Cougar LD2, this is the stock spec edition, which has the carbon fiber chassis. It does have the slipper eliminator, some more of the lightweight parts, and it has been updated basically with some of the Mikhail Orlowski setups. So it's basically running a brass weight up front, a brass ESC tray, and then I think different sway bars or something like that. So one thing I want to talk about in regards to this comparison is that performance is probably what everyone really wants to know. Which one is the fastest, which one gets around the quickest, would I race, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, my personal opinion is that all these cars are fully competitive, and it's 95% really driver and setup. Now driver is obviously me, I'm the same driver for all these cars, but setups are all going to be very, very different. And getting the right setup, I think, is a huge part of how these buggies perform. They have enough adjustability, to be quite frank, that you can pretty much get any car to do anything that you want. So whatever your driving style, whatever is ideal for your track surface or layout or whatever, is something you'll be able to get to if you have the patience or the information or the knowledge or the setup sheets or the help or whatever to get you to that point. But that really is kind of independent, in my opinion, of the actual car. So I'm going to be talking more about the natural characteristics of this car and what I think are sort of the pros and cons. So the Schumacher Cougar LD2, very different vehicle. The Yokomo and the B6.4 are much more similar, I think, in design. This one is quite different. Obviously, it's got the carbon fiber chassis, which is not an option on those other 2. Maybe there's some aftermarket parts or whatever, but yeah, out of the box, you can't buy a carbon fiber chassis. So that's kind of cool if that's something you're looking for. Really lightweight in this spec. It has a very, what I would say, artificial surface, meaning AstroTurf or carpet type design. They put all the weight all the way up in the front. You can even see that the servo is angled, and I always thought that was kind of keep the servo parallel with the arms, but I think it's actually more even just to keep the weight as front forward as you can, to provide more space for your electronics actually behind it, and that way get your battery up front as much as possible. So this is one of the earlier designs, I think, that had the battery way up there in the front. That, obviously on a carpet surface is going to be a little more beneficial to centralize the weight, not have it out to the ends or not all the way in the back. That's more for a loose surface, dirt type surface. Other interesting things, 13mm bore shocks. I think they are the first ones to do that. Team Associated has now also followed up with 13mm bore shocks on their B6.4, and I think their new B74.2 as well has 13mm bore shocks. So yeah, Schumacher, I think, kind of leading that area. There are other vehicles that had 13mm bore shocks, like short course trucks and stuff, but I think for 2-wheel drive buggies, they are the first to do that. Obviously, lay down transmission, split casing, so you can actually remove the diff without completely taking out the transmission. Battery mount, pretty interesting, does slide up and down, these little 4 pegs that hold it in place. Some things to note about this vehicle: they did redesign the front end, and so there is a brass piece for the hinge pin brace, although that is an optional part. So out of the box, I would say it does not exactly have the ideal carpet setup without buying some additional parts like that. So you will want to buy that weight for sure. That one thing nice about the Yokomo, does actually come with a steel hinge pin brace, which the other two do not. So I think out of the box you do need to spend a little bit more money. Other nice things, it does actually have a shock tower guard. That is mandatory in certain tracks, including mine. So like the Associated, they don't make one. It's kind of annoying. Or the Yokomo, I think they don't make one. So that's kind of annoying. The shocks are quite interesting. They do have this tapered spring style setup. They do have kind of these snap-on top plates. So really, I think it's meant for being a little softer on the front end. So if you crash into stuff, it does not tear up the carpet. You know, most of the other ones either have a nut or a screw or something holding them on. And they kind of do the same thing here in the back. I think it also adds lighter weight by not having, you know, such bulky pieces up top. This is a pretty lightweight setup. So they do move all the weight pretty much down low. It does also use interesting, they're not carbon fiber pieces. I think there's some sort of FRP or some sort of Kevlar type material. I think they call it like the S2 or S3 material. Pretty different style thing. Does have the carbon fiber motor plate on the stock spec. Another lightweight design. Does have basically a carbon type of material for the transmission case. Again, lightweight stuff. So for stock spec racing, I think this is actually a pretty good choice. They do make a stock spec version, so it is lighter, lightweight body all the way around. I think it is pretty much ideal. It certainly is going to be underweight, allow you to add weight wherever you want. But there are some definitely funky choices, like even like these hinge pins are a little bit weird. They're kind of like threaded in here with a little net, or actually I think they're pushed in with a little set screw holding them in place. They're not really screwed in. The turnbuckles are a little thin. The ball cup's a little bit small looking in my opinion, but high quality pieces. Rear end, again, they use kind of this funky design for the hinge pin brace where it kind of bolts onto the bottom of the transmission. Really unusual. They use little spacers and stuff in there and some inserts to adjust rear toe. Really nice. I don't know what these sort of fancy steel outdrives and stuff. So pretty interesting design, yeah. But overall, Schumacher, always a good choice within the carpet arena, the AstroTurf arena. You can get really dialed setups, a lot of setup sheets for any of those artificial surfaces. So I think that's one advantage of the Schumacher. I find, you know, just throw on that setup sheet and it's like 99% there. Maybe you want to make small changes. But really the downsides to me, the Schumacher, obviously a less popular brand in the US. I think even in the UK, it makes a ton of sense to get Schumacher. A really outstanding vehicle, good support. A lot of weird design choices. It is the most different looking type of vehicle. And, you know, even things like these captured ball cup with, I don't know what you call these, like a screw or whatever holding this. Really interesting design. I'm not sure it's actually better, but it certainly is different and has some sort of weird quirks or characteristics. But fantastic vehicle, drives really well. Honestly, when I race, I do prefer driving this probably more than the other two. Doesn't mean it's faster. It's just that I feel like the setup is really close, and you know, not really any changes needed. And I just feel a little bit comfortable with this because that style I did find kind of what I feel is the ideal setup for my driving. So yeah, Schumacher Cougar LD2. We do have a link in the description below where you can pick these up discount RC stores where I personally feel like this is the best place to get all your Schumacher stuff in the US. So go check them out. Next up is representing Japan, and that is the Team Yokomo YZ2. Kyosho is obviously another popular Japanese brand, but they really haven't updated their 10 scale stuff in a long time, and I think most people would agree Yokomo pretty much is the best stuff out of Japan today. YZ2 Cal 3.1 edition. They also make a DTM 3.1, which is their dirt, like Mayfield edition vehicle. But for carpet, AstroTurf, the Cal 3.1 is the one that you will want. Don't forget to check out which racing bearings, by the way. We do have a coupon code in there that's going to show where you want to pick up a set of bearings or motors or whatever stuff. Really good choice. And we do have 20% off, so a really nice option there. So here's the Cal 3.1. Beautiful vehicle. I mean, the parts quality on this thing is amazing. It is made in Japan. It's not made in China or Taiwan or anywhere else. And I would say out of the three of these, this is definitely the highest quality vehicle. Putting this thing together is a joy. It goes together super easily. Similar in look and style to the B6.4. probably closer to, I think, the B6.3, but, you know, again, a beautiful vehicle. Everything is just amazing. The plastics, the metals, the machining, the way everything fits together. It's pretty much second only to X-Ray, in my opinion. X-Ray, again, I think is probably the top quality manufacturer out there. They call it the luxury brand, the luxury two-wheel drive race buggies and stuff, but the Yokomo is fantastic as well. I don't drive this as much as the other two, to be quite frank. I basically went the kit setup and made my own adjustments, my own changes to what I have. You know, for example, I'm running Team Associated springs, blue, red at front, blue in the back. Setup wise, yeah, I don't think it's really quite perfect out of the box, and depending on where you drive, you may need to make, you definitely will almost definitely need to make some changes. But pros and cons of this vehicle: really high quality. It does come well optioned out of the box. I think it has almost everything you need. I mean, you might change sway bars or springs or oils or something like that, but you know, it does have the steel hinge pin brace, which is pretty much a must on any sort of carpet or AstroTurf, I'd say, just to get additional weight up front, additional steering. It does have the battery a little bit more in the back than the other two. The other two pretty much have been redesigned, or, you know, through the years try to get the weight more and more up front. And I think even some newer designs from some aftermarket chassis and manufacturing stuff move the weight even more for it. But yeah, really nice kit. If you want something like an Associated, but you don't want an Associated, this is probably the closest kit out there in style, in design. I think probably even a lot of the geometry is the same between the Team Associated and the Yokomo. One thing, there's no shock tower protector, so I'm just running a Lexan piece. But really nice kit overall. High quality. I mean, this thing is fast as well. There's just really no issues, I think, in the performance. Cost-wise, it also actually isn't that expensive, considering the quality of the materials and the quality of craftsmanship. Everything, design, engineering is top-notch. Yeah, not really anything negative to say. It does have an interesting rear bar, sway bar setup here, a little bit easier to get to than the Associated. Does have aluminum hinge pin braces with pills, just like, you know, most other kits. Schumacher has pills, but only in the front. Downsides to the Yokomo: parts availability is probably the hardest of the three of these, at least in the US. If you're in Japan, I would buy a Yokomo, I'd race a Yokomo, but I'm in the US, so yeah, parts availability can be a little more difficult. I get my stuff through A-Main. We will have links in the description below where you can click on those things to pick up parts, so that does help support the channel. But yeah, shocks are amazing. They do have, you know, plastic or composite shock cast, but the quality of the shocks are really nice. Can be a little bit difficult to figure out some of the parts compatibility as well. You know, they do make like different pistons, the thin pistons, the thick pistons, different years and stuff, use different parts. But yeah, beautiful kit overall. No other thoughts, I guess. I mean, it drives well, high quality. Maybe the durability might be a little less than the Team Associated, in my opinion. Everything seems a little bit less beefed up. Yokomos are not necessarily known for their highest level of durability. They do tend to use some smaller screws in some areas where, like, they have 2.5mm screws, I think, for some of these shock or sway bar mounts, whereas like the Team Associated uses 3mm everywhere. So a little bit, well, a few little quirks, but overall, yeah, really nice kit, and I think certainly always a good choice. And representing Team USA, we have the Team Associated B6.4, the newest kit on the block. It's been out, I don't know, maybe a couple months. Definitely have the least amount of time on this vehicle, and I'm really just running kit setup. I think it's pretty good. I think of the three of these, this is also basically full-on beast mode. Even the body's like crazy thick, quite heavy actually. It's something you might want to look into for stock spec racing, is a lightweight body. But this is the kit itself. A little, I don't know what you want to call it, a little more less elegant, I would say, than the other two, including this big old battery tray strap here in the middle. But yeah, you can see they basically are going, again, moving the battery more and more up towards the front. I did option this out with some different parts, aluminum hinge pin brace. I think one of these steel plates as well is an option. Running a slipper limiter as well. But yeah, out of the box, really good kit. I think the kit setup, I think, is pretty close. and will get you 90-95% of the way there. One thing I will say is that, in my opinion, the U.S. brands are a little bit more designed around U.S. tires. So I'm running Schumacher tires in all three vehicles. I got the same electronics, same tires, same motor, all that kind of stuff. But I would say the Team Associated stuff maybe a little bit more designed towards like J Concepts tires. I personally feel like the J Concepts Fuzz Bites, or maybe some of the Proline tires even, are a little more ideal for this vehicle. The Schumacher tires, they're a little softer on the front end, not quite as aggressive grip on the front tires, because the car itself, I think, has a lot more steering than the US vehicle, so they kind of counteract that, or they kind of design it around Schumacher tires. But the Team Associated stuff, I think, you probably perform a little better with actually US brand tires like J Concepts or Proline. One of the pros of the Team Associated, I would say it's the beefiest. I mean, it is a tank, really hard to break stuff. I have broken an arm, basically launching this 15 feet straight into like a metal pole, but other than that, it's really, really difficult to break this thing. Even has a nice little protective shock tower cover here in the front. Does have the front wing. A lot of optional parts as well. People make different chassis. People make different slippers. A lot of different optional parts through the years from Shell and others that you can pick up to option out your kit. But this is the most popular brand in the U.S. For a good reason. Really good part support. Really good setup sheets. A lot of team drivers. A lot of information out there floating around. Online resources and parts availability is pretty much second to none in the U.S. Most local hobby shops or tracks are going to carry Team Associated parts because they are basically the most popular 10 scale brand in the U.S. for sure, maybe even in the world overall. In specific countries like Japan or the UK, they're probably not super popular, but overall, this is one of the most popular kits because they've had a really long success rate throughout the years. It does have even a rear shock tower cover, so that's nice. They did move to 13mm bore shocks like the Schumacher. Again, I think a lot of the changes or updates to the latest edition of Team Associated buggies is to make them more carpet, more AstroTurf race oriented, to perform a little bit better on those surfaces. I think the 13mm bore shocks does help with the pack, landing the jumps. A lot of carpet or AstroTurf tracks, you're basically jumping it and just landing it straight on flat ground and then ripping it and going. You don't really have downsides necessarily all the time. That does help it, pack up, land more plush, and allow you to rip on the trigger a little bit more. Again, they did move the weight up front, smaller ESC tray, try to get that battery all the way up front. I think through the years, you'll probably find the battery move more and more up to the front, maybe eventually end up like right in the middle of the vehicle. That seems to help the way it drives. Any other thoughts? A lot of optional parts, different sway bars. This does have the front sway bar mount. It does have gull wing arms, sway bars in the rear. Out of the box, you will, I think, need to spend a little bit of money, like an aluminum or steel or brass hinge pin brace up front is something you want to do. For spec racing, again, you'll want to get the slipper eliminator. That is not a stock piece on any of the Team Associated two-wheel drives. So, yeah, really good kit. If you're in the U.S., you really can't go wrong with a Team Associated. They're the most popular. You're going to get a lot of help. You're going to be able to get setup sheets, things dialed really quickly. And that's really, I think, sort of the moral of the story. Whatever country you live in is generally going to be the most popular kit in your country. So if you're in the US, Team Associated. If you're in Japan, Team Yokomo. If you're in the UK, Schumacher. If you're in, the rest of Europe, maybe X-Ray is the most popular brand. And definitely, I don't think you can go wrong with buying sort of the native brand or native vehicle for your country that you live in. That's certainly always going to be the easiest way to go. If you pick up other brands, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but obviously you're going to have to carry your own parts. Setups may be a little bit more difficult, like the Yokomo. Maybe there's a lot of Yokomo setup sheets out there. They're probably in Japanese, and I don't read Japanese or anything like that, so I'm relying more on US drivers, US setup sheets, English type information, and there's just not as much out there as compared to the Team Associated or even the Schumacher. So anyways, those are my thoughts on 3 different buggies from the 3 different countries. I think they're pretty well representative of what those countries have to offer. They're certainly the newest, latest, highest performing, most popular vehicles from their respective countries. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks for watching.